You finish the message, then you read it again. The first version was clear. 3 sentences. You said what happened, what you need, and what you will do next. But then a thought appears. What if they think you are selfish? So you add a paragraph, then another thought appears. What if they believe you are angry? You add a softer sentence. You explain your schedule. You explain your intention. You explain what you did not mean. You explain why you are explaining. By the time you press send, the message is no longer 3 sentences. It is a small legal defense written for a trial that may not even exist. And after you send it, you do not feel clearer. You feel exposed. You check the screen. You replay each phrase. You wonder whether the paragraph that was meant to protect you has made you look uncertain. You begin preparing another explanation before the other person has even answered. This is the quiet cost of over. It does not only consume words. It changes your posture toward yourself. Instead of speaking as a person with a view, you begin speaking as a person asking permission to have that view. Instead of offering context, you build a case for your own innocence. Instead of communicating, you audition for the role of the reasonable person. That is why over-explaining can make you feel smaller. Not because short sentences are automatically powerful. Not because silence is a weapon. And not because mature people never clarify themselves. It makes you feel smaller when your words stop serving truth and start serving fear. The goal of this reflection is not to make you mysterious. It is not to teach coldness, strategic withdrawal, or social dominance. The goal is simpler and more demanding, to speak clearly without abandoning yourself inside the explanation. Over-explaining usually begins with a reasonable desire. If you want to be understood, you know that words can be incomplete. You know another person cannot see your intention. You know context matters. So you try to close every possible gap before it becomes a problem. You explain why you said no. You explain why you were late. You explain why you changed your mind. You explain why the boundary is necessary. You explain why your tone sounded different. You explain the history behind the decision and the history behind the history. The hidden hope is that enough context will remove the risk of a negative reaction. If you choose the perfect wording, perhaps they will not be disappointed. If you answer every possible objection, perhaps they will not criticize you. If you prove that your intention was good, perhaps they will not see you as difficult, careless, selfish, cold, or wrong. But notice what has happened. The purpose of the explanation has quietly changed. At first, the purpose was to make the situation clear. Now the purpose is to control the verdict. Clarity asks, what does this person need to know? Fear asks, what must I say so this person cannot judge me? Those questions create very different messages. The first produces useful context. The second produces an endless defense, because there is no amount of language that can make judgment impossible. Another person can misunderstand a perfect sentence. They can dislike a fair decision. They can feel disappointed by a respectful boundary. They can understand your reasons completely and still want a different answer. When you treat every negative reaction as proof that you explained badly, the explanation never ends. This does not mean the other person is malicious. Sometimes they are confused. Sometimes your first message truly was incomplete. Sometimes your conduct needs repair. But the possibility of honest confusion does not create a duty to eliminate every uncomfortable interpretation. Your responsibility is to communicate with care. It is not to control every mind that receives the communication. Imagine placing one important sentence on a table. I cannot take this on this week. That sentence has a center. It names capacity and a decision. Now surround it with 10 qualifications. You explain that you normally help. You list what you have already done. You describe your calendar. You apologize for the timing. You promise you are not upset. You mention that you hope they do not take it personally. You suggest that maybe you could reconsider. You end by asking whether your decision makes sense to them. The original sentence is still somewhere on the table, but it is buried. The listener no longer knows whether you are declining, negotiating, apologizing, or asking to be persuaded. More words have produced less clarity. This is one reason over-explaining makes you feel smaller. You watch your own position disappear while you are speaking. You begin with a decision and end with a request for approval. You begin with a fact and end by arguing against yourself. You begin with a boundary and then provide the other person with 12 openings through which to negotiate it. The emotional result is predictable. You feel weak, not because the other person defeated you, but because you left your own center before they had to do anything. There is also a second cost. When every sentence is padded with reassurance, people may stop knowing which words matter most. They may respond to the apology and ignore the decision. They may debate the background and avoid the central issue. They may choose the weakest qualification and treat it as the real message. This is not always manipulation. Long explanations genuinely create more material to interpret. The practical lesson is not say as little as possible. It is do not hide the load-bearing sentence. Every important conversation has one sentence that carries the weight. Find it before you speak. Say it early. Let the context support it instead of replacing it. Not every long explanation is over-explaining. A doctor describing a procedure needs detail. A manager explaining a complex change may owe the team context. A partner repairing harm may need to listen, answer questions, and explain what will change. A person making an important agreement should be precise. Length is not the real test. The test is function. Context helps another person understand relevant facts. Defense responds to a real concern, accusation, or consequence. Appeal tries to secure permission to remain who you are, want what you want, or choose what you have chosen. These functions can appear in the same conversation, so you need to notice the moment one turns into another. Suppose you cancel a commitment at the last minute. The other person asks, "What happened?" A responsible explanation may be necessary. You acknowledge the impact, give the relevant reason, and discuss repair. That is different from repeating the story 5 times, because you cannot tolerate the possibility that they remain annoyed. Their annoyance may be understandable. Your explanation does not have to erase it. Suppose you decline an invitation because you need rest. You can say that honestly. You may add warmth, but if you invent an emergency, list every exhausting event of the week, and ask 3 times whether they are angry, you are no longer adding useful context. You are appealing against disappointment. The distinction protects you from 2 opposite mistakes. The first mistake is over-explaining until your decision dissolves. The second is using "I do not owe anyone an explanation" to avoid accountability, cooperation, or basic respect. Self-respect is not the refusal to explain. It is the ability to explain without begging, and the ability to stop when the relevant truth has been said. Before you add another paragraph, ask who is listening. There are at least 3 different audiences, and treating them as one creates confusion. The first person is seeking clarity. They ask a specific question. They listen to the answer. They can summarize your point fairly, even if they disagree. With this person, more context may improve the conversation. Answer the question, correct ambiguity. Stay open. The second person understands but disagrees. They know what you mean, they simply want a different choice. They may want you to attend, lend, forgive, wait, stay, accept, or take responsibility. More explanation will not turn disagreement into agreement because lack of information is not the issue. With this person, repeat the decision calmly if needed. Do not confuse their dissatisfaction with your failure to communicate. The third person is committed to a version of you that serves their argument. Every answer becomes new evidence. Every clarification is pulled apart. Your intention is redefined for you. A boundary becomes cruelty. Privacy becomes secrecy. Fatigue becomes selfishness. A request for respect becomes an attack. With this person, explanation may become fuel. The important point is not to diagnose them from one difficult exchange. People misunderstand each other. Strong emotion can reduce anyone's fairness for a moment. Look for a pattern. Do they ask questions to understand, or only to continue the prosecution? Can they name your actual position, or only a harsher version of it? Does new information change anything, or is every answer absorbed into the same conclusion? Your response should match the audience. Clarify confusion. Allow disagreement. Exit distortion. When you stop giving all three audiences the same endless explanation, your communication becomes both kinder and stronger. A recurring Stoic distinction, stated here as a paraphrase rather than a quotation, is that some parts of an event belong to our agency and other parts do not. In communication, your preparation belongs to you. Your choice of words belongs to you. Your honesty, timing, tone, and willingness to repair belong to you. The other person's immediate emotion does not belong to you. Their private interpretation does not belong to you. Their decision to agree, forgive, approve, or remain disappointed does not belong to you. This distinction is easy to repeat and difficult to practice because over-explaining often tries to cross that boundary. You take the part that is yours, language and conduct, and use it to seize the part that is not yours, the verdict inside another person. Then, when the verdict does not change, you assume you need more language. The Stoic response is not indifference. You still listen. You still correct what is false. You still apologize when you caused harm. You still improve a clumsy message. But you measure yourself by the quality of your conduct, not by your ability to produce a guaranteed reaction. Ask for questions. Was I honest? Was I fair? Was I clear enough for the situation? Am I willing to address a specific good faith question? If the answer is yes, another paragraph may not be courage. It may be an attempt to escape uncertainty. Let the uncertainty remain. That is not passivity. It is respect for the boundary between your character and another person's mind. Try a simple practice. One clear explanation before repetition. This is not a law for every circumstance. It is a guardrail for moments when you feel the familiar urge to keep proving first. State the central sentence. I will not be able to continue this arrangement. Second, give the relevant context. The repeated last-minute changes are affecting commitments I have already made. Third, name the next step. I can finish what is already scheduled, but I will not accept new requests after Friday. Then stop. If the person asks a genuine question, answer it. If they identify a fact you missed, consider it. If they disagree, hear the disagreement without reopening a decision you have already made. If they repeat the same demand in new words, you do not need to create a new defense in response. You can say, I understand that you want a different answer. My decision is the same. Notice the structure. It does not insult. It does not dominate. It does not pretend the other person has no feelings. It separates understanding from agreement. This practice also reveals something important. Often, you know the central sentence before the conversation begins? What you fear is not confusion. What you fear is saying the sentence without enough padding to protect you from the reaction. That is the real exercise. Not fewer words for appearance. Enough words for truth, and enough steadiness to remain present when truth does not produce comfort. Over-explaining often contains a hidden request. You say, I am sorry this is so complicated, and I know you have a lot going on. And I really did try to make it work. But underneath you may be saying, please tell me I am not selfish. You say, I only brought this up because of what happened last month. And I am not trying to start anything. But underneath you may be saying, please promise that conflict will not cost me the relationship. You say, I understand both sides, and maybe I am wrong. Before expressing a simple preference, but underneath you may be saying, please allow me to take up space without punishing me. The hidden sentence deserves your attention because it reveals the emotional work. You are trying to make the conversation perform. Sometimes that need can be expressed directly. This conversation makes me nervous, but I still need to be honest. I care about this relationship, and I also need to say no. I am willing to clarify, but I am not willing to argue about my right to make this decision. Direct vulnerability is often shorter than defensive context. Other times, the hidden request is not something the other person can responsibly satisfy. They cannot promise never to misjudge you. They cannot remove every memory of past rejection. They cannot certify your goodness before you act. Then the work becomes internal. Can you let a fair decision remain fair even while someone dislikes it? Can you remember your intention without forcing them to confirm it? Can you survive being temporarily misunderstood without turning your identity into a public debate? The sentence under the sentence is where self-respect begins. Once you hear it, you can stop burying it beneath explanations and decide what actually needs to be said. When you begin explaining less, the first feeling may not be confidence. It may be guilt. You send the shorter message and feel rude. You state the boundary and feel unfinished. You end the conversation and immediately imagine 5 better sentences. Silence feels like negligence because your nervous habit equates continued talking with continued care. Do not use that discomfort as automatic evidence that the message was wrong. New behavior often feels unfamiliar before it feels natural. Give yourself a waiting period. After an important message, do not send an unrequested clarification for 30 minutes. For a larger decision, wait until the next day, unless new information or safety requires a faster response. During the pause, write the extra explanation privately. Then ask what each sentence does. Does it add a relevant fact? Does it correct an actual ambiguity? Does it accept responsibility? Or does it ask the other person to regulate your fear by approving your decision? If the sentence serves clarity, send it. If it serves panic, let it remain in the draft. This pause turns silence from a performance into a diagnostic tool. You are not withholding words to create power. You are allowing urgency to settle so the useful words can be separated from the anxious ones. The discomfort will not disappear immediately, but each time you refrain from abandoning your center, you build evidence that a conversation can remain incomplete without your identity collapsing. At work, over-explaining can appear as the email that answers questions nobody asked. You propose a decision, then weaken it with every risk apology and possible exception. A clearer structure is simple: recommendation, reason, risk, next action. Detail can follow where it is needed. In family, over-explaining often appears when old roles are activated. You are an adult, but one disappointed voice makes you feel as if you must present a complete defense of your time. Try, "I will not be there Sunday. I know that is disappointing. I can call on Monday." You have acknowledged both the decision and the relationship. You do not need to invent a crisis to earn the right to be unavailable. In friendship, the pattern may appear after a delayed reply. You send a long account of your week because you fear the delay proves you do not care. A shorter repair may be more respectful. "I disappeared into a difficult week and did not communicate well. I am sorry. Are you free tomorrow?" That message accepts responsibility without turning the friend into an audience for your entire internal trial. In intimate relationships, over-explaining can become a way to avoid the vulnerability of a direct need. You discuss tone, timing, history, and every related incident when the central sentence is, "When plans change without telling me, I feel unimportant. I need us to communicate earlier." The direct sentence may feel more dangerous because it can receive a direct answer. But that is also why it creates a real conversation. There is another setting where precision matters, when your reputation or responsibilities are questioned in public. The urge may be to answer every detail immediately, especially when the claim feels unfair. But an emotional flood of facts can make the situation harder to follow. Begin with the record. That description is not accurate. The deadline was changed on Tuesday, I delivered the revised work on Thursday, and the confirmation is in the shared file. Then decide what the setting requires. A workplace dispute may need documentation and a private meeting. A public rumor may require one correction and no ongoing performance. A legal, safety, or professional matter may require qualified help rather than improvised debate. The point is not to remain silent when facts matter. The point is to choose a response that serves the facts instead of the adrenaline. Over-explaining also appears when you receive praise. Someone says you handled something well, and you immediately list every mistake, every person who helped, and every reason the achievement does not count. Humility is valuable, but refusing to let a true compliment land can become another form of self-erasure. Try a complete sentence. Thank you. I worked hard on it, and I appreciate the help I received. No false modesty. No inflated claim. Just inaccurate response. Finally, notice the pattern in ordinary preferences. You do not need a moral argument for choosing the quiet restaurant. Leaving the event early, wearing what fits you, or spending an evening alone. A preference can be communicated without being converted into a case for innocence. These low-stakes moments are useful practice. If you can state a preference without building a defense, you strengthen the same capacity needed in harder conversations. There are moments when a short answer is not enough. If your decision affects another person's money, safety, work, caregiving, housing, or important plans, they may deserve meaningful context. If you made a promise and cannot keep it, I changed my mind, may be honest but incomplete. Responsibility includes acknowledging the impact and discussing repair. If someone tells you that your words caused harm, repeating "that was not my intention" is not a full response. Intention matters, but impact may require listening, clarification, apology, and changed conduct. If you hold authority over someone, unexplained decisions can create uncertainty that they are not free to challenge. Leadership often requires more transparency, not less. If the issue is collaborative, explanation is not submission. It is part of the work. These exceptions matter because advice about speaking less can become vanity. A person may call themselves calm while refusing to answer reasonable questions. They may call silence a boundary when it is punishment. They may use concise language to avoid empathy. That is not the self-respect this channel is trying to build. The standard is not brevity. The standard is integrity. Use as many words as responsibility requires. Use no extra words to beg for a verdict that responsibility cannot guarantee. You can ask the other person what information would help you understand the decision. That question is useful because it turns a vague demand for more explanation into a specific request. You can answer what is relevant without reopening your entire identity. Clarity is generous. Accountability is strong. Endless self-defense is neither. For the next 7 days, do not try to become a different personality. Run a small experiment. Day 1. Notice the trigger. Write down the moments when you want to add one more explanation. Was the trigger disappointment, silence, a question, a facial expression, or your own imagination? Day 2. Underline the load-bearing sentence. Before sending an important message, identify the one sentence that contains the decision, need, fact, or apology. Day 3. Separate facts from predictions. Facts are what happened. Predictions are statements such as, "They will think I do not care." Do not make a prediction carry the same authority as a fact. Day 4. Use the 3 audience test. Is this person confused, disagreeing, or repeatedly distorting? Match the response to the audience. Day 5. Practice 1 clean no. Choose a low-stakes request. Decline warmly, give only relevant context, and do not invent an emergency. Day 6. Make 1 clean repair. If you owe an apology, remove the biography and the self-punishment. Name what you did, recognize the impact, and state what will change. Day 7. Review the outcomes. Which conversations became clearer? Which people accepted the shorter explanation? Which people demanded the same answer, repeatedly? Where did you confuse guilt with wrongdoing? Where did you genuinely need more context? The purpose is not to count words. It is to see function. By the end of the week, you may discover that many of your longest explanations were never requested. They were written for the invisible courtroom in your head. Self-respect rarely returns through one dramatic speech. It returns in small moments when your behavior tells you that your own words can be trusted. You say no and do not immediately reverse it because someone sighs. You apologize without calling yourself terrible. You answer a sincere question without turning the answer into a plea. You allow someone to disagree without treating disagreement as exile. You correct a false claim once, document what matters, and refuse to build your life around the rumor. Each moment restores a little weight to your voice. You also become easier to understand. People do not have to search through 15 qualifications to find the truth. Your yes becomes more reliable because it is chosen. Your no becomes less dramatic because it does not require a courtroom. Your apology becomes more meaningful because it is not mixed with the demand for immediate forgiveness. Some people may prefer the old version of you. The old version supplied unlimited context, instant reassurance, and many opportunities to negotiate. Their discomfort does not automatically mean the new version is cruel, but remain willing to examine yourself. Speaking clearly does not make every decision wise. A calm tone does not make every boundary fair. Self-respect without reflection can harden into self-importance. Return to conduct? Was I honest? Was I fair? Did I listen? Did I protect what matters without pretending only my needs exist? If correction is needed, correct yourself without humiliation. If the decision remains sound, let it stand without another performance. That is a quieter form of strength, not winning every interpretation, but staying answerable to your principles when interpretation remains outside your control. Return to the message on the screen. The honest version is 3 sentences. It names what happened, it states what you need, it offers the relevant next step. Your hand still wants to add the paragraph that proves you are kind. Pause. Kindness is already present in the care you took with the truth. Your hand wants to add the sentence that prevents disappointment. Pause. Disappointment is not always an injury, and another adult can experience it without you becoming guilty of wrongdoing. Your hand wants to explain the explanation. Pause. Ask whether the new words create clarity or merely ask for permission. Then make a decision. Maybe context is needed. Add it with precision? Maybe repair is needed. Offer it without self-erasure? Maybe a sincere question deserves an answer. Give one, and maybe the truth has already been said. In that case, stop writing. Let the message remain clear. Let the other person have a reaction. Let yourself feel the uncertainty without rushing back to manage it. You do not become larger by making another person smaller. You do not become stronger by turning silence into a weapon. You become steadier when your words have a center and your conduct can stand beside them. Explain what responsibility requires. Clarify what honesty requires. Repair what fairness requires. Then release the verdict that was never yours to control. If this reflection helped you speak with more clarity and self-respect, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who keeps explaining too much.